Hey.
Just, hey, that was it.
Sometimes it was, hey, you're hot.
This is Task Time Energy, the purpose-filled productivity podcast. I'm your host, Scott Miller. Welcome to the show.
So a couple of weeks ago, I made a post on LinkedIn in response to some other posts that I was reading from women who were basically complaining about random men contacting them and flirting with them or asking them out. So these are men on LinkedIn who were using LinkedIn to contact women that they basically didn't know to hit on them. So I made a post about it. You know, maybe LinkedIn is not the optimum dating site, that there may be better places to do that, like actual dating sites that are designed for that purpose. And one or two people commented on my post and then said something about not liking dating sites very much, or dating sites being kind of dreary. So I thought it would be interesting to talk to two people who have had success on a dating site and actually met someone that they were compatible with. And those two people are my lovely wife, Lauren, and me.
Hello.
And this does tie in, I think, to purpose-filled productivity because, you know, a lot of people who are busy, have busy careers or otherwise busy lives, I think sometimes find it difficult to, you know, find a romantic partner. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes, I would.
And so sometimes people turn to dating sites as a way to maybe do it, you know, more easily. And I have heard people say from time to time that they don't have much success with dating sites, or dating sites are awful. And so, yeah, I thought it'd be interesting to talk about it and maybe help people who want to use dating sites, help them to do that a little better. What have you heard people say about dating sites?
So most people I know call them dating apps.
Dating apps. Am I dating myself?
Yes, you are.
Okay. Sorry, continue.
I don't have a good response for that question.
Okay, that's fine. You and I, Lauren, met on OkCupid, right?
Correct.
Okay. I always get it confused with some other site, but it's OkCupid.
OkCupid, that is where we met. Yes, you are correct.
What were some of your experiences with OkCupid before you and I met?
So I had a variety of experiences. I was on OkCupid a few years before we met for a while, and met someone, dated for a few months. So I got off the dating site.
App. I think they're called dating apps.
Oh, you're right. Dating apps.
Yeah.
And it was a while before I ended up back on there. And again, you know, had some success, some dates, and some good dates, some not so good dates. And then eventually we met. But I will say I do agree with people that say dating apps are dreary and awful, because they are. But I think that's true of dating. I mean, dating is hard. I think most people would agree, whether it's in person or online. There are different aspects to the online that you don't have with in person as much. Some I think are positive, some are negatives. And there's so many different dating apps out there that, depending on what you're looking for, there's probably one that would work well for you. I liked OkCupid because they have a ton of questions that you can answer, and the more questions you answer, the better matches you get. And the questions ranged on all kinds of topics, and that way you were finding out a lot of information about somebody before you met them, getting through, in a way, a lot of those first dates to a point where you knew you had some level of compatibility.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think it might be interesting for the benefit of people who want to use their time wisely, tying it back to the purpose of the podcast, right?
Right.
Maybe we could talk a little bit about the things that we learned about how to use OkCupid well, and that also probably apply to other dating apps too. Notice I call them apps, not sites now.
Right.
I'm learning. You mentioned the questions, and this is something that OkCupid does, and other sites probably do too. But so they ask you a bunch of questions, and then based on your answers to those questions, their algorithm uses that to match you with people who might be compatible. And the one thing that I found that I learned through doing a little research, I don't think they made this really obvious on the app itself, but I did a little research, went online and looked up how these OkCupid works and found actually a site that was very helpful. But the one thing they explained was, they're going to ask you these questions, and one of your answers is like, how would you answer the question for yourself? And then what kind of answer would you want to see from somebody you were dating? So like, let's use tattoos, for example. A question might say, what do you think about tattoos? And there could be several different answers. So my answer would have been, I have tattoos and I don't mind dating someone else who has tattoos. That would be the way I would answer. But then they ask, what would be acceptable answers for someone who you were dating? And the idea is you don't just choose one answer, you choose all the answers that are acceptable. Someone I'm dating, if they answered and said, I have tattoos and don't mind dating someone else who has tattoos, or if somebody said, I don't have any tattoos and I don't mind dating someone who has tattoos, that would be okay too. So there could be, 2 or 3 different answers that a potential partner could answer that would be okay. The only one I wouldn't select is I wouldn't select an answer that said something like, I don't have tattoos and I don't want to date somebody who has tattoos. It doesn't make sense for me to, get matched with somebody who's going to answer that question and say they don't want to date somebody who has tattoos. So the point is, it's worth doing a little bit of research and finding out how these apps work, reading the instructions, like if they have instructions, or going online and, reading some blogs or whatever that talk about these apps and find out how to use them correctly. Like, for example, if they ask questions, what's the best way to answer questions so that you'll get matched with the greatest number of people who are potentially compatible? Does that make sense?
Yes, that made sense.
What are some other things that you think are useful to do when you're using one of these apps, when you're creating your own profile?
Creating your own profile, I think it's important. Well, specifically going back to what you were just saying with OkCupid, the more questions you answered, the more compatible options you would find. Because if you've only answered 3 questions and all you are matching is whether or not you have tattoos, like dogs, and have a job, that's not going to find your match. That's going to find you half the population. So the more information you input, the better output you're going to get. And so that goes with your profile as well. I mean, you don't want to write a 10-page term paper, but you want to give clear, honest information about what your interests are and what you're looking for.
It's probably useful. I think I've read this, and something I remember from being on the app was focus on the positives and what you're looking for. Because I remember that, like, if I read a profile and there was a lot on there about, like, I don't want this, I don't want that, I don't want this. I mean, I guess it's okay to be honest, but when that's really what the focus is, like a long list of things that a person doesn't want, that wasn't too interesting for me.
Or helpful, really.
Yeah, true. It's not very helpful. Like, yeah, talk about what you are looking for. This is the kind of person that I'm looking for. Being honest too, I think, is useful, and maybe not like, I don't know how common this is, but like exaggerating, overstating, trying to make yourself and your life seem better than it really is. Like, I think honesty is probably the best policy, because a person's going to find out anyway. You start dating.
Yes, they are.
You put some funny things in your profile, something about thinking about teleportation.
Yes.
Spend your time thinking about teleportation, which I found amusing. And I think, again, you don't have to like go overboard making an effort to try to be super funny, especially if that's not natural for you. But, it's okay to put a few things in there that are funny or interesting or mysterious or would make somebody want to know more. What about pictures? What do you think about pictures? What do you remember seeing in guys' photos that you found interesting or appealing and things that you didn't find appealing?
Nobody wants to see your bathroom selfie. We just don't.
You heard it here first, folks.
Pictures of you doing what you like to do are good. As an animal lover, I would want to see a picture of you with your pet if you've got an animal that lives with you or animals. Mm-hmm. Don't just tell me about your cute dog. I want to see a picture of you with your dog.
We want to see the dog. Yeah, that's good.
And I mean, simple things like make sure your picture's in focus and not from 20 years ago. If it is from 20 years ago, make sure you put some notes somewhere so that we know why you included that one and why that picture is in your profile. You know, pictures from the last few years. If you don't have enough, you have friends, and you can take selfies, just not in the bathroom. You know, go out and take a few pictures. Get a friend to go with you. Go do something fun and take pictures while you're doing it.
I think it's also good to be clear, like it's okay to include pictures of you out having fun with other people, like friends. I think one of my pictures was me and Ray sailing, wasn't it? Or
yes.
with a boat. But if all of your pictures are with other people and to the point where it's not clear which one you are, that's not going to be very appealing.
No, it's not.
I think I remember seeing a couple.
Well, and it's confusing as part of it is then you're having to figure out which guy is the guy that you're reading about.
Yeah.
And along those same lines, like if there's pictures of you with like arms around other people or whatever, make sure it's clear that it's a group of friends in that picture. Mm-hmm. Don't post a picture of you and your ex and cut her out of the picture and you see the hand. You want pictures showing you outside of other relationships. Mm-hmm. I think there should be at least one picture of just you. Mm-hmm. Even if it is a selfie. Selfies are fine. Partly just for that clarity's sake of like, this is the person that you are talking to, communicating with, potentially dating.
And one thing about taking pictures, this is kind of, photography 101, but worth mentioning, is take a few pictures. Even if you're not going to do like a bunch of different poses and make it like, a GQ photo shoot, just move around a little bit, couple different places, couple different locations, and take a few different pictures, whether you're taking selfies or whether you're having somebody take pictures for you. Because one of the things you'll always hear professional photographers say is the best way to get a really great picture is to take 100 pictures. So I think, we have the ability to do that now. Think about lighting a little bit. I mean, have most of the light behind the camera shining towards you, not behind your head shining at the camera. That makes a difference, even though cameras now are pretty good with that, but still. Anything else with pictures that you think is useful for guys to know, for dudes out there putting pictures on their profile?
The shirtless pictures for the sake of being shirtless is not necessary. Same with that bathroom selfie. Like, if you're at the beach, then sure, it makes sense. If it's just you...
Sir, this is a Wendy's. We don't need you shirtless in Wendy's.
Right, right.
I'm trying to think if there's anything that, any advice I would give women who are taking their pictures. My natural first thought is that women are going to be more concerned about their appearance than men are. But that's just me. I'm that kind of guy. But, I did like one of my pictures, I think I was wearing a collared shirt, right? Yes. Like, I'm pretty casual when it comes to how I dress, but I was wearing a nice collared shirt, button-down shirt. But I would think that maybe some women would be, especially if you're going to put a picture on a dating app, maybe a little more concerned with their appearance than maybe they would need to be. That may be good advice or not. I think if you look like you're having fun, I think that comes through. Rather than having a picture where you're like, maybe your hair is perfect and your makeup is perfect and you're wearing something you really like, but you don't look happy. you know, but it maybe would be better to have a picture that's maybe more casual or not. I mean, this is just my opinion and what I find appealing. A picture that's maybe not so perfect in the, you know, in all those aspects, but you look like you're having fun. I think that, you know, I think a lot of guys would find that more attractive. Do a little research. You know, there are probably lots of YouTube videos out there about how to make a profile on this dating app and how to make a profile on that dating app. And they'll talk about things like, how do you answer the questions? What's the best way to answer the questions on this app to get the most compatible matches? They'll give you advice about things to do in your profile, do's and don'ts, and how to take a good picture. But definitely invest a little time in learning how to use the app and the particular things about that app that'll help you get the most compatible matches.
I can't remember the woman's name, but there's a really good TED Talk out there on dating apps, and she totally figured them out. She solved the how do you make a dating site work, and came at it in a scientific manner and spreadsheets and all.
I've seen that.
You might have. I might have even showed it to you.
We might need to find that and include a link to that. Okay, so you got your app, right? You got your profile all set up. And then you get to the point where you connect with somebody, you want to message somebody. And this is where I was very amused when you were telling me how many guys messaged you in a way that was not very appealing. So I think gentlemen would benefit from hearing a little bit about that.
You think so?
Share with us.
Okay. So I got many, many messages from guys that said, hey. That's it.
Just hey.
Just hey. Or, hey, you're hot.
You are, sweetie.
Well, thanks, babe. But, that's not really what I'm looking for.
So, explain for the gentlemen who are listening to this, because, some of us guys are a little slow about these things. Explain exactly what is unappealing about that.
Okay. So, I think I should start with, I was always on a dating app looking for a relationship. I think that's part of it. Also, saying, hey, you're hot takes pretty much no effort on the guy's part. He can copy and paste that message to hundreds of women.
So you're saying it doesn't make you feel special?
No, it does not make you feel special. Doesn't make you feel like he's knows anything about you. And that's what I looked for, was when somebody messaged me, it was clear they'd actually read my profile. Mm-hmm. And dating app profiles are not that long. Mm-hmm. I mean, hopefully. I mean, we're talking, you've spent 5 minutes, maybe 10, reading somebody's profile, looking at their pictures. And so when you message them, you should be referring back to what you just learned. So if you ask me a question that is clearly answered in my profile, that's not going to help you out. But if you instead directly reference something like
teleportation,
wow. Yeah. Teleportation, then, I'm probably going to message you back.
So I just want to pause and say, when you said a moment ago, you want to reference what you just learned, that's like one of the most teacher things that I can imagine either of us saying about dating apps. And since we're both teachers, something like that was bound to come out. But,
yeah, it was.
All right, students, make sure you reference what you learned when you read the profile.
Exactly.
And this is what I did when I messaged anybody on the app. I read their profile and I mentioned something about their profile or asked a question about it. I think I asked you, why do you spend your time thinking about teleportation? Show that you read the profile, pick something that looks interesting to you and ask a question about it. That's a great way to open a conversation. And if somebody doesn't like that, then
they're not a good match.
They're not a good match. Yeah, for me anyway. But you like that. I asked you a question and you answered.
Correct.
Yes. What else? What else would be good to keep in mind when you're messaging someone? That might be it. It's not that hard, right? Read the profile, pick something in the profile that you found interesting, and mention it and ask a question about it, right?
Yeah.
Great way to start a conversation.
Yeah.
Be patient, because you didn't answer back right away. I don't know about my first message, maybe not even the first message, but I know there were a couple messages that you didn't answer back, and you finally said that, you're a teacher and it was the end of the school year. Mm-hmm. So you were really busy.
Correct.
So yeah, just because you don't get an answer back right away, that doesn't necessarily mean anything.
Correct.
Don't freak out. Don't panic.
Yeah, don't panic.
What about like first dates? Because we went to a coffee shop.
Yes, we did.
And I did, when I was on OkCupid at the time that you and I met, and I told you this before, I actually had a few different dates with a few different people before you and I dated. And they were all coffee. They were all, let's meet up here for coffee. And you don't have to drink coffee. But like a coffee shop, I think, is a really nice place for a first date with somebody that you meet on a dating app. Because it's low pressure. It's not like you're getting a meal. It's not like you're going to see a movie. If within a few minutes you're realizing that it's just not compatible, or you just don't want to be around this person, it's pretty easy to leave. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think it's a good option.
Mm-hmm. What else? What are some other good options?
So for first dates, I did coffee some, but I like going for hikes and walks, and so I often suggested that for a first date because I was looking for somebody that would go on hikes and walks with me. So I kind of figured if they wouldn't do that on a first date, they're not going to do that later.
So wait a minute, you met some random dude on the internet and went walking out in the woods with him.
Yes, I did.
That's awesome.
I did tell a friend where I was going and, what their dating app nickname was and all that stuff, and any information I had on the person, because by then I would have a phone number. I'm not going on a date with somebody that I don't have their phone number to reach them, so I would pass all that information on to a friend before I go. But yeah, I would meet people for the first time in the woods, go for a walk.
Fun. Did you bring bear spray?
I didn't. There aren't really bears.
I was thinking in case guy turns into a creep.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome. And we did that for our third date. We went for a hike.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you could meet Fern.
Yeah.
My dog.
I got on the app. I created my profile, messaged some people, and I went on several dates in a pretty short period of time. I told you this. In a period of a couple of weeks, I went on several dates. And I did not have a bad date. I thought every one of the people I met were really nice. Not, a couple of them I pretty much knew pretty quickly that I didn't feel like there was any real chemistry going on there, as opposed to you and I, who we met, we had coffee, the place we were having coffee at was shutting down, so we left, and then we ended up spending an hour in the parking lot talking before we finally went our separate ways. So that's probably a good indication that there was some chemistry there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thinking back to it, one of the things that I remember is, and I've been in situations before where I met somebody, I knew him for a little while, and then I decided to ask them out. And by that time, I kind of already decided that I liked the person. And so, I think when you feel like you like somebody, then asking them out in the first date, it's kind of all a big deal. And the one thing I remember about this was I really decided to have fun with it. I'm not just going to choose somebody who looks perfect on their profile. I mean, somebody who, seems interesting, somebody who seems attractive to me and seems compatible, but I'm just going to have fun with it. And I kind of consciously decided that I was going to, ask a few different people out and have those first dates with a few different people and kind of not take it too seriously. So I think that's kind of useful too. Don't feel like you have to put all your eggs in one basket. It's okay to just meet a couple people and go have coffee with a couple people, or go hike in the woods with a couple people if that's your thing. And then see if there's any interest there, any mutual interest. What else? Any other suggestions you would make, advice you would give people?
I will say on the going for a walk, the only drawback is like you were saying with coffee, it's pretty easy to make that a short date if needed. It's a little harder when you're on a walk to cut that short if it's not going well.
I think just to recap a little bit, it is possible to have fun with online dating and to meet somebody that you're compatible with and that you will enjoy being with. I think, hopefully, I can say that we are an example of that.
Yes.
So maybe some of the ways to use your time with these dating apps purposefully and productively and in a satisfying way. Learn about the app that you're going to use. When we were talking about OkCupid, I mean, that's all from 6 years ago or so, 6-ish years ago. So probably a lot of that's changed. But I imagine there's also more information online, YouTube videos, blogs, stuff like that, about how to use these sites, how to use the apps. So take a little bit of time and maybe look into that and learn how do you use this app in a way that will give you the best chance of meeting people you're compatible with. Put a little thought in your profile. Be honest in your profile. And maybe assume that people are being honest in their profile. If they say things like, hey, I like to be outdoors, I'm looking for somebody I can go on hikes with, then if they took the time to put that in their profile, it probably is important to them, and probably not a good idea just to assume, oh, they don't really mean that just because you like their picture. Like you were saying, it's not, you're not writing a novel when you write your app, when you write your profile on the app. So whatever you write in there probably is something that you consider worth mentioning.
True. Take
some good pictures. Try to make them look good. You don't have to go over the top and looking like a model, but, maybe at least one picture where you're dressed nicely. Make sure it's easy to see who you are, not having all your pictures with groups, although, a picture with a group of friends is nice to show that you have some. Communicating that first message doesn't have to be too complicated, but read something in their profile. Ask them about it. Show that you've put some effort into reading their profile and reading the information that they bothered to put on there, and show that you're willing to put some effort in. First dates, you can keep them simple. Keep them simple, keep them fun. Yeah, it is possible. It is possible to use these apps as a way, even for busy people, to maybe find somebody to be in a relationship with. Well, thanks, baby. Thanks for sharing your stories.
You're welcome.
One of the things that I enjoy doing as a coach is helping people find ways to enjoy their time, ways to have fun in life. Sometimes people who are successful, sometimes people who have a lot of demands on their time, struggle to find the time for the things they enjoy or things that they want to do, whether that's dating, whether that's spending time with the person that you're already in a relationship, whether it's just doing things on your own that you enjoy doing. If you'd like to find ways to bring a little more fun into your life, check out my website, scottmillercoaching.com, or send me an email, scott@scottmillercoaching.com. Let's see if we can find some time in your life for the things that you enjoy.
Thanks for joining Scott and I today on Scott's podcast.
You don't remember the name of my podcast, do
you? Something like time, task, energy.
Oh, baby. All right, y'all. We'll see you back here next time.